Hey folks, welcome to Be Woke Vote. I'm Roland Martin, host of Roland Martin Unfiltered. When I got the call to do this, there were a list of people who I said must be here to have this conversation, not just to encourage folks to vote, but also to walk us through how critically important it is for us to be involved and engaged, as well as empowered after the election. And so I sent him a text and he said, hey, I'll be there. Even though I got a speech somewhere else, I will be there, have a conversation. Put your hands together, folks, and welcome Chuck D. My man.
Yeah. When Brother Romo calls, I move.
Yes, sir. And I've always appreciated that. I always appreciate that.
I'm automatic, man.
Several years ago, you spoke in Chicago.
Yeah.
I was living there, and I forgot it was in a church somewhere. It was in a church, and it was pretty funny sights seeing Chuck D in his T-shirt in the pulpit preaching. But you said something that night.
Was there any curse words that day?
No cuss words that day. No curse words that day.
All right.
But you said, look, folks, most of the land in America has been purchased. Mm-hmm. But the only real estate that can never be purchased is in between your ears.
Mm-hmm. And they figuring that out right now. It's like the real estate of your mind. You know, they got everything sold up, but the real estate of what's between the ears, they're acquiring day by day. But, you know, a lot of people are giving it away. You know, and to stay woke, you got to kind of work. You got to work to be woke. Mm-hmm. I often get audacious and say, I was born woke, but you know what? You know, you got to work up to that. So I cut it really simple and dry tack when it comes down to voting. I tell people, like, voting in the United States of America is as essential as washing your tail in the morning. Now, you ain't got to wash, but you can't run around and talk about things that stink. I mean, you don't have to wash. You don't have to brush your teeth. You don't have to do none of that. You don't have to vote. But when you start complaining that something stink in the air, you start looking at yourself.
And one of the things that is amazing to me, and you are absolutely well-read, always about constantly acquiring knowledge. And when people say, look, man, that stuff, that's just too much. That's just, I can't get involved with that. And I'm going, you do know that there is not a piece of your life that government in some way does not involve. I mean, I crack up with these conservatives who talk about
down to your name.
Everything.
Down to your name.
Everything. I mean, just if you actually sat down and said, okay, what part of my life? Let me try to find something in my life that government in does not have a part of. I can't think of a single thing. You can say, fine, they don't impact my marriage. Yes, they do. Because you got to get that marriage license.
Yep. From the birth to the tomb. And if you're going to be here in the United States of America, whether you like it or not, you got to know about it. You got to know its history. Because when somebody knows about you more than you know yourself, that's slavery. That's volunteer slavery. Yeah. So it's almost like double the education we got to pick up of what this place is all about, how it works, how it runs. I'm a firm believer, being in 112 countries, that you got to think global and act local. But you better act local. And before you get into the hyperbole and all the pomp and circumstance of what people think the vote is, like it's the NBA Finals, which they kind of know more about the NBA Finals than they know about the people that's in their neighborhood. I think you got to understand who's on the school board, who's, if you kind of driving wobbly on the road, who voted for the judge that's going to lock your ass up. You know, how about all these people that's running around in your community that be up at 8:30 in the morning, and you never see them because you roaming around at 3 in the afternoon. They got voted in. They go to the government office buildings that you don't know until you get in trouble. So these things are important. Somebody got to read read your local roadmap. So think global, and then you got to also see how the rest of the world operates. And I'm a firm believer, us black folk in the United States, if we don't connect to the diaspora, then we'll be slaves in the United States of America, because we don't know this jail cell enough for us to be free and say, this is our claim, this is our turf. Well, if you're going to claim it, know it.
Well, we saw that when Trump gets elected and all of these people on television, they're like, oh my God, we've never seen anything like this. And I'm going, what the hell are y'all talking about?
I know.
And then of course it was all these, the back and forth, and so when I've given speeches and I've talked about how black success in America has always been followed by white backlash. I said, if you go through 245 years of slavery, you go through Reconstruction, then you get the Great Compromise of 1877, 92 years of Jim Crow.
You got the post-World War I, the 1919 rebellions. Yeah, I mean, but you know, and a lot of this, you can even study the music of the last 100 years since it's documented and recording to find out how we got blacklashed.
Right.
And how we rebelled against it, and why Curtis Mayfield would say in 1965, "People get ready, or we're a winner." I mean, these records were purposeful. They were done.
It wasn't just a great beat.
Yeah,
No,
right.
he was saying something.
Yep.
When you listen to the OJ's, "Put Your Hands Together."
Yeah, Gamble and Huff songs is like, getting you ready to recognize what you can't see. Yeah.
And that's why it drives me crazy when I'm talking to folks and they're like, "Man, what? Okay, you keep bringing up all this old stuff as if," and they would say, "But that stuff doesn't matter." And I said, "Really?" So when former Governor Terry McCullough of Virginia, when he said, "I'm gonna give pardons to 13,000 formerly incarcerated folks," and the Republicans said, "No, you got to do it one by one. You just can't do 13,000 at one time." And he was the first governor to go, "Do y'all know where this law came from?" He said, 1902, a state legislator stood on the floor and said, "We're going to pass this law to keep the darkies from voting." All of these governors in Virginia had been using this law, tough on crime, you're not going to right to vote, and the basis of it was to keep black folks from voting. And he was the first governor to say, no, we're going to go back to why this law is on the books. And then people kind of like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that." And I'm like, so all you fools who are saying that something that was passed in 1902 has no impact in 2016, it did.
Right.
And they were just stunned. I'm like, yes, we can go through numerous laws that are still in the books.
Yeah, we got to keep those stats as much as we keep the stats of our favorite football team. Keep the stats. Somebody got to keep the stats. Who's the stat keeper that turns these stats into facts in the practical real life? But we act exactly. It ain't like, all right, let Roland do it, or I'll flip on when I want to get woke because Roland got it covered. I mean, like I said, it's essential to washing yourself. You have to, you got to adult up at some point. We know today that they said, 40s to 30 and the 30s to 20 and all that, but 10 ain't the new zygote and 20 don't want to be 10. So we got to say that, all right, when you age up, your responsibility up, it ain't for us, it's for somebody else. It's really for those after us, it's for our kids and all those younger, that we have to be able to understand what's coming at us, because it's coming at us at a super accelerated rate. I mean, everybody got a computer attached to their hip.
Right.
Now, is it a toy or is it a tool? So when you go into it to do the toys and you like this all day, you a bot, that's one thing. But what are you about? And it's going into it and say, okay, we got to keep watch on this. It's our security. It's somebody watching your back of the stats. And there's been so many games played. And the reason why we can't always jump on millennials and millennial disactivity is because these are different people, whether it's the love or hate, different people than it was 20 years ago. People have moved in and people have died off.
Right.
That's why you always got to keep it like this. You got to always keep the momentum of letting you know, and when you get that person say, "Oh, I heard this before." I said, you might have heard this before, but the next person ain't heard it at all. So it's a relentless upkeeping of watching your back.
Oh yeah, I have. And the other thing is understanding that you don't have to get caught up in the game of, okay, but I didn't go to college. Look, my mother and my father did not go to college. My dad worked for Amtrak when he got furloughed, so they were paying him to stay at the house. My dad watched 5 hours of news a day.
Right.
Read the paper. And I don't think people understand. He didn't read the paper. No. He read, you know how in the classified section, they had like a little hole?
Right.
And you find this little small article in the bottom right-hand corner. Dog, he read that article.
He covered it.
So he would finish the Sunday paper Friday.
Right.
And I was like, bruh, the new Sunday paper about to come out. Because see, then I couldn't even touch the paper. I couldn't touch any part of the paper until he read the whole paper.
Well, to us folk, man, the newspaper in the past, for those that understood that they didn't want to get pushed down a flight of stairs of society, that newspaper was the cell phones. And people went through that newspaper that said, I won't be left behind. And even if they say, all right, I'm the one that's got to go through this newspaper, then I'm going to go to the barbershop. I'm going to be the one with the most knowledge going to let everybody know. And you know what? You don't get no debates if you come with this much information in the barbershop. Matter of fact, say, oh, that's OG. Yeah, you got to sit and listen to him.
Right. That's the equivalent of the brother who can dunk on you, who can block your shot.
Right.
And totally D you up and just dominate you. Right. In the barbershop, they kind of like say, bro, you don't want to mess with him. And then they'll warn everybody.
Right.
Like dudes start joining, they be like, say, bro, him different. Right. You want to make look. I've been there, right. And because again, my deal is like in my family, my grandfather and my aunts and my uncles, dude, they used to have fierce debates. Right. Now, they didn't say kids can't participate. But if you jump your ass in that conversation, you better be able to ball. Or they will kick your behind out and you be, but I'm a kid. No, you jump your ass in this conversation.
It's a get down mental foxhole you getting into, and it learns you. Notice I say don't teach you, it learns you. It learns you to come up out of there. When you talk to real folk and everyday folk, you make it practical, you go like this, and you ain't got to prove nothing.
No.
And they could reject it. But they know that an OG like that know you're going to come back anyway for it. It's jewels, it's fruit. And you're going to come back and get your fruits and veggies from the OG that lets you know. I think if there is, and this is not a millennial accident, it's done on purpose, that they made the gadgets God, or they made the gadgets seem like God to tell us everything about everything and make you really search hard to find yourself. So people are all, this is the worldwide religions, regardless of what anybody thinks, the electronic religion is the worldwide religion through the phone. So everybody's got their heads angled into that. So how do you do to make that instead of it breaking you? You have to be able to have at least the millennial audience and crowd at least make education not shameful.
Right.
And also make it say, all right, you know all this, so why are you just keeping it to yourself? Because you're afraid to be the smartest one. Like, you know, if somebody comes out and got their best gear on and all this, somebody might say, damn, they come in tight, you know, they kind of like, you know, coming right and real. But if you show off your mind, it's like, why are you showing off? You trying to make us seem stupid? And it was never like that. It's like, you letting us get these jewels now because you got our back. Because you can't give us no money. So the best way I got your back is letting you know the deal, and then I dip off. You come to get it when you want it, but I'm here for that.
Because there was a period where, look, smart was real sexist.
Smart was the deal.
I mean, you said it, and was it? But one of the things that's interesting when we talk about millennials or Gen X, Gen Y, because first of all, look, baby boomers said the same thing about Gen X folks.
Of course.
The exact same thing. So it's not, so I tell millennials, look, ain't nobody picking on you. It's a rites of passage for the previous generation to say, y'all don't know shit.
Right. It's just like culturally speaking and musically speaking, I always say that people my age and even my parents' age rejected the musics of their parents.
Right.
They didn't want to bring the blues. My parents didn't want to bring the blues into the house, and my grandparents would bring the blues in the house. But you know what? That's a generational thing.
Right.
Me as a culturalist and a historian and a musicologist says all this counts. Now, I ain't here to try to sell it on anybody, but we can't say it never existed.
Right.
And we can't get mad if somebody on the outside and the rest of the world pick up on it and know more about it and love it and you don't. We got to kind of teach you to embrace what was already here.
So my niece, my oldest niece, Atlantis, and so I drive her crazy because she'll say some stupid stuff and crazy stuff. And so I created hashtag the Lanny Chronicle. And so I'll hit that video, dude, and I'll post that bad boy. I'm like, y'all don't believe what the hell she just said? So
they must be running from you in the
bro.
Here we go.
Oh, my nieces and nephews, they know I do not play. And so one day, first of all, her biggest thing is she hates the fact that she'll say, hey, Uncle Roro, did you know? I'm like, yeah, I knew that. And she's like, okay, can that just be one thing one day that I know that you don't know? I said, you're going to have to work for that sucker. And it kills her. It's like, so one day she asked me something, and she's like, hey, did you know so-and-so? Like, no. And I'm sitting there, and I knew. And we're just driving, I'm driving home. I'm like, okay, drive on. She just talking away. And then I go, well, yeah, you told me you didn't know anything about this. I was like, Okay, I was lying. I just want to see. But the thing is, what I'm trying to get her to understand is you have got to be in a constant pursuit of information.
Right.
And you've got to use what is at your disposal. And so when she came and asked me some question about when she was her class and she was in college, I was like, well, yeah, I'm like, here's the deal. I said, well, come with me. So we go to my library. And the question.
And your library is just not wallpaper.
Oh, no. And the question started with something in the 1800s. She asked the question, and all of a sudden, she literally walked out of there with 8 books that went from 1800 all the way through 1960s. And so I was kind of like, okay, I said, so you know Brown versus Board of Education. Okay, here's Charles Ogletree's book. Okay, here's this book. Here's the first black senator. Okay, here's this book. And she was like, I said, that's what happened when you asked me one question. But if I didn't have the books,
right,
or the DVDs,
right,
or the documentaries, then I'm not able to teach. And I said, you can't be in my house.
And then you got to rely on links and electricity and make sure that you got Wi-Fi, and maybe that will work. But this is a time where you have to stock as many people up as possible to challenge information. See, don't believe the hype. When we made that record, and it was partially from Noam Chomsky, because I went to school, had to do a thesis on this dude. And I said, well, it ain't I'm embracing any white history. It's not I'm embracing all this information because I want to, and I think it's a wonderful thing to drape myself in. You gotta stock information to challenge information, and the information, sometimes we call it BS. If you don't know nothing, how you gonna challenge something that's coming at you?
Right, and you gotta anticipate the question before. See, that was the deal. Cats used to always say, dude, you ain't never got on CNN. I said, hell no.
Right.
I said, because I knew what in the hell they were gonna ask. I remember in 2012, man, we're on the air, and I'm blasting Mitt Romney's speech. I said, he says nothing about housing. He said, so John King goes, well, no, Roland, because Romney was from Massachusetts, John King from Boston, so like, I know everything about Mitt Romney.
Right.
And he's like, well, no, Roland, that's not correct. He does have a housing plan. I said, where is it? Now, 2 weeks earlier, I'd already written a piece on his lack of a housing plan. Combed through his website for 3 days, didn't find it. And so it's like, you gonna challenge me? And I guess he thought because I'm John King,
right?
I'm the Magic Wall dude. I know. And I was like, no, dude, here's no housing plan. Right. Anderson was like, okay, well, we'll sort it out later. I'm like, we ain't sort shit out later. Like,
look, they turned it into a TV show on you.
It was like, I said, oh, okay. So we went to a commercial break. The phone, I went, let me double check just in case he put a housing plan on his site in the last 24 hours. So they came back, me and Ari Fleischer were talking. I said, oh, by the way, before we go on, I said, I checked during the break. Ain't no housing plan on his website. Okay, they got all quiet. But then it was like, okay, you showing up. No, the man gonna challenge me on TV to tell me he got a housing plan. I know he lying. But again, if I don't have that information, right, I can't fire back.
Right.
He can hit me, and so it looks like, well, he knows more than you do, so therefore he just owns you. No, and that was the piece I'm saying. You always got to know what they gonna ask, and then what they gonna ask the second and the third and the fourth question, and not the first. It's sort of like when you play the dozens. You can't be too deep.
Right.
You got to have about 6 or 8 or 10.
Right.
So when you use your first 2, you like, oh, I got some stuff in reserve. That's what also I try to teach these cats.
In sports, we're in such a sports-laden country. Or a world, if you want to, there's 8 ESPN channels, I don't know what for, but you anticipate the pass. You anticipate what the defense is going to do. The average person, whether they're 6 or 7 or 8 years old, knows that. But you also got to mind up in your regular life to anticipate the BS coming to you, especially if you're black. The advantages that we had in that last century, right? That was just that other century that we came up out of, is that, well, at least I knew when I was growing up, I knew I had the advantage as a black student, a black person, black man, black kid, whatever, is that I knew everything about them. They didn't know nothing about me.
Right.
Different now. It's different now. Our stuff is all over the floor, all over in the air. People know more about us or anticipate our moves more than we kind of know about ourselves and anticipate what our next move is going to be. That's the area we got to build up to be woke.
And I think when we talk about politics and even voting, I dealt with all these people in 2016 who were angry with Hillary Clinton because of the super predators comment. Mm-hmm. And I had people coming at me, oh man, you were sitting there supporting her and Bernie was the guy. And I was like, ask y'all a question. I said, y'all vote for Obama? He said, yeah. I said, that means you also voted for the man who wrote the very bill. They were like, what do you mean? I said, you mad at Hillary for making a comment about super predators tied to the crime bill. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you were cheering the man who was the Senate Judiciary Committee chairman who actually wrote the very bill, Joe Biden. I said, now I'm not hating on Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm just stating fact. You hate her because of the comment, and you say you don't like her because she was supporting the crime bill, but you had no problem cheering the guy who wrote the crime bill, who still defends the crime bill. But then it was like, I said, oh, I'm sorry.
But bro, you the play-by-play announcer on politics, man. Cats be coming in on the third quarter, man. It's like, yo, man, you the play-by-play and the color man of what's going on. So they got to kind of like step back, make their decision, but they can't challenge you on it. I mean, you've been following the game since the warm-ups. So I'm like saying it's like, that's a moot point if somebody's trying to come at you like that. But I was trying
to show them, you mad at her and you saying, no, hell no, I ain't gonna vote for her. But you were riding with the dude who wrote the crime bill because the brother picked him.
That's the complexity of the monstrosity of confusion that politics gives in this country, especially it's spiraled up to now. It started way before that. It's just that you got to give and take, and you got to know, and you got to anticipate moves. And then I'm saying the most important thing is it's like, know your damn county. Know your damn county. Know your town. Know your community on the voting tip. Know where your kids is going to school before they zone them out.
Right.
Know that, all right, man, I done paid this money this time. I don't want to pay a damn bit of tax, but the tax I do pay is going to pay this much. It's like, yo, so at least know that much before you try to catch and say, well, I want to just follow the Super Bowl of politics. Yeah, it's like, yo, man, the local, sleepy, boring ass game in the Sandlot, you better be and figure out what that is.
Impacts you in a much greater way than everything.
When you talk about jailing black men, it was a national agenda, but it had local devastation.
District attorneys. Finally, in the last 4 years, it hit many of the activists. Whoa, hold up. Shit, if we change the DA, hell, that's who's deciding whether we gonna arrest folks for marijuana or not. And so what then happened? Crashed in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Aramis Ayala, the first black state's attorney in Florida. You had Kenneth, why is escaping me? The brother who was in Brooklyn, Kenneth Thompson, who passed away. Of course, Marilyn Mosby, of course, in Baltimore. Kim Foxx now in Cook County, Chicago. All of a sudden, Craig Watkins, who was the first DA and first black DA in all of Texas, who put in that basically the group that retested DNA, upwards of 30 cats freed because who were not guilty of the crime. And all of a sudden, folks like, oh, damn, I'm like, yes, as you said earlier, yes, those judges who nobody care about, that's who also are making those decisions. We hollering about somebody who's a House member. Well, hell, there's only 200,000 people in federal prison. The other 2 million in local and state. And so I'm like, yo.
And those numbers swole up over the last, 30 years?
Yeah.
From almost like 100,000, 200,000 up to 2 million. So the statistics are blinding if you never see them.
And then I think the other great point, I think, when you talk about why you have to know local. I had the advantage of, again, parents who were not college educated, parents who combined never made more than $50,000 a year, raised 5 kids, owned their own home. But their whole deal was, you know what, we're going to start a civic club. Right. And, all right, you know what, we tired of these overgrown lots. they would go, who's responsible for cutting these lots down? All right, well, somebody with the city. This is the agency. Okay, we're gonna go to that agency. Okay, well, we got these abandoned houses all around that are turning to crack houses. Who's responsible for tearing those houses down? Bruh, they just methodically went through. Then that thing went from, you know what? We need some new streets. We need some street lights. We need our park refurbished. Well, how does that happen? Well, bond project. Okay, what's the next bond project? These were just regular, ordinary people, man, that transformed the community. But you had haters. You had haters who were saying, man, y'all ain't gonna do nothing. And they said, oh, it's all good, we're gonna keep meeting. But the haters benefited from also their work. And that's the thing, man, that I'm constantly trying to get people to understand is that stop, like I tell a lot of the Black Lives Matter activists, I'm like, yo, you don't have to start a new organization.
Right.
I said, go to the NAACP meeting, find out the last election, how many votes they had. I said, go bring 50 people with you. I said, all of a sudden, the next election, run your own slate. You can take it over. That's what Nikema Levy-Pounds did in Minneapolis. Yo, they took over the whole chapter.
Yeah.
You can take stuff over that's already there.
Dude, I tell people all the time, and once again, I go back to my analogies because I'm an art person and I'm a sport head. It's like you wearing that old ass Yankee hat and all they do is just fill the logo with new people. The same way we have to look at organizations. It's like before you figure out what that organization has and figure out how you can get up in there. You ain't gonna run it the first day you step up in there.
Right.
Get on the team first. Prove yourself you get on the team first. It's only gonna behoove you later on. But you just can't come in with an individual agenda. The individuals' agendas have really crippled us. It cripples all kinds of movements.
Yep.
You get a collective, and collectively you can come up with something that will get you a little bit ahead and get knocked back.
Can I ask you this question? So this was interesting. So Trump wins and Jim Brown goes to meet with him. Steve Harvey goes to meet with him. Martin Luther King III went to meet with him. Andrew Young was on the phone. Kanye goes to meet with him. And all these folks, black folks, were mad as hell. So it came to me. And I said, no, the issue is not who met with him. The issue is, what did you say when you were in the room?
I wouldn't meet with him, but am I mad at somebody else that meets with him that comes back with something that's of clarity that people could at least know about
or
and use? What's the real deal?
Come back and say, no, I challenge his ass on this. Look, I've had the benefit of being invited to sit at the table of off-the-record meetings.
The big dog.
With two presidents.
The big dog.
So when they call, it's like, okay, so I'm in a room and ABC anchor, the NBC anchor, the CBS, the CNN, all the people in the room, and I'm sitting right there. And twice, he's had 3 meetings with TV anchors. I've been to 2 of them. Another one I had a speech. I ain't passing up money. And so folks were like, man, I can't believe you're going. I said, oh, no. I said, oh, I'm going.
Yeah.
I said, because see, I know other than Lester Holt, who in the room, ain't gonna be nobody else black in the room.
Right.
I said, and I know ain't nobody in the room gonna ask a black question.
Right. Now, how could you not go? How could you not go?
Right. And they were like, yeah, but I said, no. I'm gonna be in the room. Now they had this huge table. It's about 30 people around the table. Now I had my ass way down here on the end. But that was fine. But my deal is like, no, I'm gonna be in the room to ask the question that none of y'all are gonna ask. Because y'all gonna talk about deficit and something else, but you ain't gonna ask specifically about Chicago. You ain't gonna ask about federal housing policy. You're not gonna ask about HBCUs. And I said, that's why I'm gonna sit in that table. And so that's my deal. See, I ain't tripping because Kanye gonna have lunch with Trump or whatever. But first of all, because he ain't gonna ask anything that's of relevance that actually has information behind it.
Wait. The conversation gonna be like this. It's like, I mean, I'm just like saying like, and I've said this a long time, man. And I've said this it was controversial when I said it one time with Tavis. I said, this country was the right size in the prior centuries for this next century, it might be bloated to not handle itself. It's like a 7'3" center who got a broken ankle. It's going to take a long time for it to heal. And you need, this is one of the reasons they call it the United States, because it's so big, 2,000 by 3,000 continental miles. Then you got Hawaii and Alaska, two places it shouldn't have had, that they all of a sudden assumed, well, with all those other areas they imperialized. So with this large piece of land, yes, geographically it's beautiful. Probably one of the most beautiful from east to west, north to south. I've been on every road everywhere. To fix its infrastructure, man, there's a trillion conversations that gonna go on that, how do we fit in with it? How do we get a piece of it? And when we get a piece of it, what are we gonna do with it? So, I mean, like, even in this country, when you talk about conversations that just go over people's heads, like the bridge that collapsed in Minneapolis. Yep. Couple of years ago. I mean, is that in the forefront when you drive on the road and the thing collapses on your car, and then all of a sudden it becomes the main concern because you had somebody in your family got killed by it? So there's so many things to talk about when you talk about this country, jurisdiction, who needs to run it, where we fit in it. If there ain't no job, somebody got to fix these things. Can we actually be in on some of that?
Right.
If you're gonna live in a place, you got to know about a place. At least we know, like, our people when we're in the Caribbean, they got to know about infrastructure. They know they culturally into the whoop and the music and the culture and all that and social differently dynamics. But they also got to figure out how we get food imported into this island.
Right.
How do we get something that we got worth something to export and bring money back? How do we get past a storm? You know, everybody just ain't in this bread and circus grown at 28 years old because they feel that, you know, I ain't got to be old and grown yet until I see I got to be in. That's got to be when I'm 35 or something like that. They got to figure out how to live in the rest of the world. Like, okay, you old enough, now figure out how you live as an adult and bring some people in and up. And in this country, I just think that sometimes, I mean, there's so many things that got to get handled that we have to figure out how we embrace the people that have the know-how and the knowledge, and also make them accountable that they got to share without rejection.
Right, and that's why the thing for me is, again, what I always say is, look, if you vote and your person doesn't win, you still a constituent. It's not like, okay, my person didn't win, so I'm gonna check back in 4 years. No. You still accountable to me as a constituent. When the Republicans would not confirm Loretta Lynch, man, I saw all these sisters marching on Capitol Hill. Deltas, because she's a Delta, Deltas, Black Women's Round Table, all these folks. So I was talking to Pastor Jamal Bryant, Jeff Johnston. I was like, yo, where the hell the dudes at? I'm like, where the dudes at? I said, this sister's getting screwed. Well, dude, I said, you know what? I said, we gonna create Brothers for Loretta Lynch. We ain't asked nobody. We didn't ask permission. We said, we just gonna do it. Doc, we sent the thing out. I talked about it on television. I talked about it on radio. We were like, yo, on this day, meet us at the fountain across from Capitol Hill. Meet us there at 9 o'clock. I called 2 members of Congress. I said, yo, I knew they could walk us in. We ain't gonna have no issues. Man, almost 200 brothers showed up. Most of these cats had never in their life been in the halls of Congress.
They ain't put no terrorist alert up.
Bruh, the security
Amber
came
alert,
out of
black
everywhere. There's nothing that scares America than to have a couple hundred black men all of a sudden show up and just march in single file. Bro, when I say that was security all over the place, like, where in the hell did they come from? Because see, this is what I remind people. We have these marches, they take place on Saturdays. They ain't there. I said, no. You got to go there when they're there. So, man, we go in, and I said, y'all, here's the way this game plays. If I walk into the office of Mitch McConnell, he's a senator from Kentucky. I said, he going to reject me. So I said, which one of y'all brothers from Kentucky? Come to the front of the line. You going to lead us into the room. And so it happened in Mississippi. So Thad Cochran, Senator, Mississippi. And so he was waffling on Loretta Lynch. I said, no, who from Mississippi? You're going to always find somebody black from Mississippi, okay, in your group.
Always.
They say, I'm from Chicago. No. Where your people from?
I know,
Mississippi.
right?
Bring your ass to the front line. They gonna be from Mississippi or from Alabama.
Yep.
It don't matter.
Yep.
Dude comes to the front of the line, bruh, she ain't trying to sit here. Well, no, we don't have any available appointments. We wait. Now, she's sitting there, she's kind of like, well, is it possible, it's a lot of y'all. Is it possible that y'all could wait in the hallway? Nope. But let me tell you how I love black women. So it was 3 women who was sitting already in the room, and they listening. And they listening why we there. And so the sister says, she says, well, we have an appointment with the senator, and we have 30 minutes. I will give him 10. And she's like, okay, we can't do that. We can't apportion your time. And so Doc, we don't move. They come out, the senator's real busy. And so they tell one of these other brothers who's with us, they didn't come tell me, because they're like, okay, he the leader. So they came to him, so if we have another room, if y'all could wait in the other room, we can try to work it out. And he goes, okay, we'll do that. Now, I'm over here talking, but I'm hearing. And he comes over, I said, we ain't moving. And my look in my eye said, your ass don't get to make those decisions. We're gonna stand right here. By 10 minutes later, the senator can meet for 10 minutes. Our presence, because there's nothing like the presence of black men.
Right.
They felt that presence for like 20 minutes. It was oppressive. Right. It was like, these Negroes are not leaving.
Right.
We might want to make this happen. So he comes in, he's so damn old. He can't barely hear us. And I'm sitting there and we leading it. And I go, now, Senator, just as a reminder, you got reelected because black people voted in the Republican primary against your opponent. We just want to remind you of that. So we fully expect you to vote for Loretta Lynch. Well, I'm going to announce my decision. I said, oh, that's fine. We'll wait for you to announce your decision. But we just want you to know we fully expect you to vote for that sister. Because the only reason you returned back to Capitol Hill, because black people sent you back here versus the Tea Party dude. Oh, I was smiling, but I wanted him to know. Oh, his ass voted for Loretta Lynch.
Yeah. They haven't got a conversation like that in the past 20 years.
But here's what was beautiful.
Getting away with it.
The brothers had never seen that. They had never experienced what it was like to stand there and just not be present, but have presence.
Right.
And the brothers was like, oh, dog, we got to come back. They had never experienced it.
Right.
And that's the piece where I try to get people to understand why you got to show up, because your presence actually speaks far louder than that tweet or that letter. That matters. But when you show up with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, it creates a whole different dynamic to power.
And at the same time, we can't use the jargon or the excuse like, oh, we did that before. Because I said new people come in and old people leave. And that's why you always got to stay on the one, keep on the one. Just to add to the point, the first year I voted for the president, and voted period, I was 20, 1980, and me, with my radical-minded self, I voted for Angela Davis for president of the United States. And
you wrote her in?
I wrote her in, yeah. And then it was Jimmy Carter versus Reagan. And then I realized that, okay, this is the World Series pimp game at the top. And I just realized the game of mathematics at the top. And then we got Ronald Wilson Reagan, which devastated our communities for an 8-year run. And then you had the 4 years of Bush. But it was the trickle down factor that came out of that. It was devastating in the area I came from. But I then knew that the voting, yes, the trick game was going on, but you better really seriously try to understand that like they used to play the numbers back in the day. You got to figure out the numbers game.
I'm going to be talking to one of the greatest organizers of all time, led the Nashville movement. When you think about organizers, Ella Baker.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about Fannie Lou Hamer,
Mm-hmm.
and when you think about Reverend James, when you think about what he did, the Nashville movement, and the thing that I keep saying, and I want to get your thoughts on this, at the most underappreciated aspect of the Black Freedom Movement was training.
Training?
Training. You just didn't show up at a rally.
Right.
You had to go through training through SCLC, through SNCC, through CORE. They took them in and they want to know where you were here. Panthers, training, classes. That's the thing Reverend Barber is trying to do right now that I think a lot of people miss. You got to have classes and training to understand civic engagement, politics. Your point. Who's your county commissioner? Who's your city council member? Who's your school board member? This is what they do before you walk out there and just start yelling, demanding stuff.
And here's another thing. You know, the fallacy of the times. We can't get into, and this has nothing to do with the people, but just the time, millennial tricks, feeling that you got to brand everything. You know, you don't have to brand a movement. You have to make that movement what it is, and at least show some love and props to people who are actually given the time to dot the I's and cross the T's. It's ugly work, and it's unglamorous, but it's necessary. It's like washing up in the morning and you got crust in your eye, get the crust out. But we need to not toss them to the back like they ain't doing nothing. And like I said, you might not be able to glamorize it. You might not be able to brand it. It ain't got to be sexy.
And you might not get a damn award or be on a magazine cover.
Exactly.
Or all of that.
But somebody got to do it. It's like burying people. It's like, you know, cleaning the garbage from the back to the back lots. It's like picking up crap that's on your lawn if you got one. It's like replacing a window when it's broken. It's just like, it's what it is. Adult up, grow the hell up. It's just what it is. But we can't have it invisible. And I think that's probably the thing about it. It's like, we cannot have it invisible. We might not be able to brand it and make it sexy, but it can no longer be invisible. The movement and also the talking of people like yourself, it's like, oh man, it's like, yeah. And you know what? All those stations play games where they got all the talking heads and they're going, ah. So to a younger person, it's like a bunch of crap, it's a mess. And you gotta be able to say, well, yeah, it might be crap and mess, but out of this, it's like putting beets into your morning drink. It's like beets ain't glamorous, but you probably need it as opposed to eating cookies in the morning. And it might have been, nasty at 14, but 29, your ass gonna need something like that, or you gonna be hurt and broke up. Not broke, but broke up. Which brings me to the last analogy of being woke. You know, once upon a time, you know, we as black folks, we know we were broke, but we were never broken. Today, we broke and broken. Today, we broke and broken, or no matter how many gadgets and things that we can consume and buy. As a collective, we're broke and broken. We can fix both of those, but as a collective only.
It's a few more questions. We've talked a lot about education. Ice-T did a documentary on rap.
Art of rap.
Art of rap.
Yeah.
And I talk about this all of the time because I've interviewed athletes. I've always tried to explain to people, you gotta stop calling these cats dumb, because if you sit down and listen to them break down plays and call things out and sit there, and if you watch Dwayne Price with the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, used to work there, did an article on Michael Irvin, and the whole thing was how Michael Irvin watched tape. And Irvin was like, okay, look at his left foot. instead of 45-degree angle. And so, okay, he's going to do a corner blitz versus if his foot was here. So this is how his hips are moving. It was an amazing article because he was studying every single thing about his opponent. In that documentary, they showed how you lay out your rap, how you lay out your raps. And it was just this, and I'm sitting and I was kind of like, and I'm fascinated by it because somebody's thinking, oh man, check up this, they're talking. No, you were going through how you're constructing it, putting it together, and there was knowledge behind it. There was a process behind it that I was like, yo, I said that was just amazing. The same thing with voting, but also what we do after the election.
Exactly.
If we don't go through that, learn the craft.
Right.
Not just, I'm gonna just go spout some stuff. No. Learn the craft. Know how these things work. I pull these young cats who keep popping up on TV, and I'm like, you don't know what the hell your ass doing.
Wait, voting is just the uniform and the kicks of the game. That's just the uniform. Now you got a uniform and a jersey, and now you can play. After the vote, now the game is on. It's like, that's just the way it is. They don't have a lot of people like yourself that can break that down. And they don't magnify this because it behooves a lot of situations that have a dumb society, black, white, green, or whatever. So the same old new tricks can be played. I tell people all the time, it's like, I stick to culture, music, because in our culture, there's a schematic that's already reflected and a roadmap to the future just in the songs. You can follow the songs to get Black history by default. That's one of the reasons why the radio stations don't want to kind of like have DJs that talk or play the music that has the words and the times in it. So like we're gonna remove the interpreters.
And if anybody also understands, based upon the research, African Americans we get our information out of all of the mediums out there from radio than any other medium.
Right. Was the only thing you could put to multitask to. Although I do see cats in their whip trying to look at the screen at the same time, but radio has a dynamic multi-purpose for our, if we want to call us a demographic. It spews the past, tells you where you're at in the present. It also foresees a roadmap for the future, and you can multitask because you got to multitask, doing all these other things that get you just your head over water. So,
I asked I actually supposed to ask me, and they said, man, look, your TV One deal ended. They ended the show. They chose not to do a new deal, which is fine. So ended 13 to 14 years there. Left CNN 5 years ago. They were like, man, why are you creating Roland Martin Unfiltered? And I said, do y'all understand what's about to happen? They said, no, what do you mean? I said, Tom Joyner retires December 31st, 2019. I said, nothing against all of the other national radio shows, but all of the other national radio shows combined don't use their platform for social good and consciousness when it comes to politics and news and issues and things along those lines. I said, that means when 2020 hits, we are not going to have a daily vehicle that serves as our town hall. I said, so I could try to go get me a gig at one of the other networks, but I don't want to. I said, we've got to have that. I said, because when Justin Fairfax, when the Democrats did not want him to even speak at the state convention, I put him on my TV One show. Pumped it up, they fell back. Put him on 2 more times before the election, he wins. The cable news networks would not book him before the election. He wins, becomes lieutenant governor, all of a sudden they call. He tells his staff, no, my first post-election interview was with Roland Martin because he put me on when they wouldn't put me on. I said, guys, so my show ends, so you no longer have a daily television show for black folks on the cable network. Tom Joyner ends next year. I said, where are we going to go to get unfiltered, unapologetic black on these cable?
Way, politics is totally boring and disinteresting. You make it necessary. Say, look, this is the beet juice, but I put a little cayenne in it. I made it pop with a little bit of the lemon in here, and it's fly. Take it. And we need that here, because when back in the day when they said this is the land of the lost and wilderness, it is if you're deaf, dumb, and blind, because the distractions are now coming at us at light speed. So you break it down, especially in the gadget era, and we thank you for that.
And that's why we use the hashtag Bring the Funk.
No doubt.
That's how we do it. Last thing, I've done with everybody. Somebody roll up on you. Chuck, I love your music, man. Please sign it. Let me get a selfie. And you go, all right, I got 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds to tell this young cat, or middle age or older, why they must vote and must be engaged. Go.
You grown, you ain't a child. Voting is about like washing your tail in the morning. You ain't gotta do it, but don't go around saying something stink. And I tell them that, and that usually sticks with them.
That's 15 seconds, y'all. Chuck D. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate it. Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.